What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube channel. And thank you guys for tuning in to another video. Folks, we are almost T minus 1 month away from CFL football being back in our regular scheduled programming. We're going to be releasing this episode on the last day of March, and then more than likely, when you guys are going to be consuming this, it'll be in the month of April. And of course, in May, we are going to be getting CFL training camp kicking off, and of course, CFL preseason games that will lead into June. I know all the excitement usually is it June yet, but May is a very exciting time, especially for myself, for other fellow Canadian football fanatics around the country, because draft season just happens. We really get a kind of a taste of CFL football really being right around the corner, and the excitement definitely starts to ramp up from there. So exciting times here on the channel and in our Canadian football land. And we are bringing you guys episode 46 here today. Whenever you guys are listening to this, tracking down 50 episodes, which is going to be a milestone, which is going to be a cool one. Hopefully, going to be having a pretty cool guest. So stay tuned for that. We aren't going to be releasing that one just quite yet. But as we track down 50 episodes, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a fun journey, and things are starting to happen now, and it's been an exciting time. So with that, actually, folks, it's an exciting time for me to. I know it's been teased on the channel, officially announced that we are going to be airing some content on Shaw TV. So if any of you guys that are listening here today are watching um, this episode that are Rogers TV, Rogers Cable. If you guys are if you guys get your cable through Rogers, is what I'm trying to say. You guys can check out our episode 37 with NFL/CFL prospect and quarterback Taylor Algersma. That'll be airing. By the time you guys are hearing this, unfortunately, um, yesterday when this is going to be released, but it'll be airing on the 30th of March, Sunday, March 30th, excuse me, on Channel 4 for all those that are on Rogers TV, like I mentioned. So check that out. It's a really exciting time. We're getting these opportunities. Like I said, the journey's been a lot of fun, and now it's fun to look back on the 50 episodes and how they've flown by now. So as always, guys, be sure to leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, and of course, most importantly, subscribe. When you guys subscribe, press notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we upload, go live, etc. You name it, you guys will get a notification to your phone, laptop, iPad, however you guys consume our content, and stay up to date with the Canadian Football Fanatics. So today's guest, as you guys can probably already tell by today's thumbnail title, we're going to be joined by Logan Ferland, Saskatchewan Roughriders offensive lineman. And yes, folks, that's what I would. He's not, maybe you could call him a right guard, maybe you could call him a center. This guy is a very, very valuable weapon to the offensive line for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Has just in this past season played right guard, center, left tackle, right guard, everything but left guard. A very Swiss Army knife, if you want to call it that, for the offensive line. A very steady presence along the offensive line in terms of being available, not missing many games. He was the West representative for the most outstanding offensive lineman this past season. He won it the past 3 seasons for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, being the team's most outstanding offensive lineman. And of course, the big cool thing, the tie for myself and hopefully fellow CGFL alum or listeners that are listening to this, he is a Regina Thunder alum. He's a product of the CGFL and coming straight out of the CGFL and proving that there is talent in there and that they can play at the professional levels. It's going to be super cool to chat with Logan about that aspect, ask him kind of, what it means to him to be a Regina Thunder product, a CGFL product, and go against guys that are, coming out of, Ole Miss and Alabama, LSU, you name it, all these Division I schools, these Power 5 programs. And he is to them, a little junior guy up here in Canada, and he proved that, he is one of the best, if not the best, doing it right now along the offensive line in the CFL. So really excited to have Logan on here today, chat with him. I've known about Logan for a few years now, actually. Good buddy of mine came out from the Saskatchewan area in 2019, mentioned about this Logan Ferland that was playing for the Regina Thunder, and kept an eye. I actually, in researching for this, he was on the Riders PR that season, and then after COVID and into that 2021 season, he made the roster full time and really hit the ground running from there. So excited to have Logan on and chat with him. But before we do, as always, a few ad reads to get us into the episode. So, as always, this episode is brought to you by Area 51 Sports, your one-stop shop for all your football needs. Whether you're looking for top-notch footballs, helmets, shoulder pads, cleats, gloves, flag football gear, or even custom uniforms, Area 51 Sports has got you covered. Trusted by athletes at every level, they're dedicated to helping you play your best. Gear up and dominate the field with Area 51 Sports. Visit their website today and take your game to the next level. And of course, this episode is also brought to you by your senior men's Canadian national football team. And they need your support as they gear up to represent Canada in Europe this April. Yes, folks. Like I said, by the time we are uploading this video, it is going to be the last day of March. The boys will be on their way over to Europe shortly after that to represent and take on Team Italy. So support, support, support. Help the boys bring home the win by checking out the fundraising options and official team merchandise at footballcanada.com. Every purchase and donation goes directly to supporting the team on their journey. Let's show the world what Canadian football is all about. Head to footballcanada.com today and help the team make us proud. So, folks, that is, I think, for the most part, all the reminders. Actually, one good one. We did release our Canadian Football Fanatics slash or collaborated with 13th Man Football, a project I did alongside Shane Ryan of 13th Man Football. We released our mock draft 1.0. So stay tuned to both of our channels. We're going to be releasing 2.0. Not too sure if we're going to get to a 3.0 with our time schedules and stuff like that before the upcoming CFL draft in about a month's time. But we will have our big upcoming 3-round content creators, CFL followers, mock draft that's going to be on the Canadian Football Fanatics on April 7th. That is Monday, April 7th. It'll be a week from now by the time this is released. So looking forward to that one and being joined by 8 other representatives for their teams across the CFL and having a mock draft, having a lot of fun with it. Nobody's, claiming that they're experts here or anything like that. We're just trying to have some fun, get some chatter, getting some engagement with the fans to hopefully get some of these prospects more of, household names coming out of school and coming into the Canadian Football League out of the CFL draft. So that's the plan with that. Stay tuned for that one, guys. Really looking forward to that. If you guys remember last season, we did our inaugural CFL mock draft here on the channel. Did really well. Looking forward to do number 2. If you guys want to go back, it's quite a ways back. It's all the way a year from, almost a year from now, actually. And it's our live category. So go to our YouTube channel, click the live tab up at the top of the screen, scroll back quite a ways, and you guys should be able to find it's a CFL 3-round mock draft on our channel. So I think that is all for today, folks. Let's send it over to Saskatchewan Roughriders offensive lineman Logan Ferland in episode 46 right now. Alrighty, Fanatics. Joining me now is Regina Thunder alum and Saskatchewan Roughriders offensive lineman Logan Ferland. Logan, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. You're doing great.
So, Logan, it's kind of that point in the offseason now where it's like you had the chance to, take a deep breath and almost to look forward to camp now. So how's the offseason been and kind of how are you looking forward to, camps around the corner? By the time we're releasing this, it'll be in April and a month away from, May and stuff.
Yeah, it's been a great offseason. Being able to reflect on how last year ended and then, like you said, take that breath, realize what you need to work on, and then have everything kind of fall into place. It's feeling great. I train here at Ignite Athletics in Saskatoon. I know I think you've had a few guys on or, that train there as well. And it's been amazing. Also, level 10 then with Dan Farthing, he's our trainer at the Riders. So a little bit with him more during the season. And then I like to come up here, have a little bit of different look, different city. Just kind of don't get used to Regina. So it's nice to be able to be in a little bit other areas of Saskatchewan. So really good off season so far. Season's coming up crazy fast. Seems like the last 2 months have just flown by, but can't wait to get started. Wish we started tomorrow. I'll be ready for it.
So you're a Saskatchewan guy yourself, obviously, and you're from Melfort, Saskatchewan. So for those that aren't aware, and most, we're hoping to have a lot of fanatics around the country, but a lot of our listeners are from BC, myself being a BC boy. So just tell us about, Melfort. I believe it's a small town and community, and, growing up in Melfort, Saskatchewan, a small community.
Yeah, small town, kind of on the edge. It's technically a city. When I was there, it had about 6,000 people. It's continues to grow. City city definition pretty much comes when you get a McDonald's in town. So that was that happened after I left, but that's where we're at now. So it's more of a farming community. I moved there from Kindersley, Saskatchewan when I was 11. Obviously, with the rest of my family, I grew up with 3 brothers, and so was able to obviously be in Melfort High School. Started playing football there, unreal football program with the Melfort Comets, and definitely wouldn't be where I am without that development there. Kind of taught me what SAS football is all about. Incredibly talented coaches, incredibly hardworking coaches that kind of paved the way and kind of set the foundation for my football career. So extremely lucky being a guy in Melfort, and it's more of a farming community, blue collar town. So like I said, you learn how to work hard and just there's not a lot of boasters from Melfort. Not a lot of cocky people. So you got kind of a humble attitude. I learned a lot about that, respectively as well. So then moving to Regina in 2015, when I graduated, played for the Regina Thunder for 5 years. And Melfort, like I said, helped pave that way and got me a foot in the door in the CJFL.
So I'm curious, Logan, when researching about you and seeing that you're around balls and whatnot, you said that, growing up, you weren't really much of a sports family and kind of a football family. You mentioned growing up with 3 brothers. What kind of got you into football? What attracted you to football, I guess?
Actually, it was a rougher time in my life. My first year playing football, I was junior kid. DB was my first position. Terrible at it. Chubby little guy that didn't know much about football or any sports in general. So just feeling kind of that push to get into football was really from my brother, my older brother, Ryan. He played football for the Comets, went on to play for the rival town, Tisdale. So hearing from him how football was for him, how much it shaped his life at that time, it just was really something I was inspired by and something he pushed me to try. I wasn't that up for it. He had to force me a little bit to go into it, but I ended up going into it and loved it ever since. Then about a year later, my dad actually passed away from cancer, so it ended up being a really hard time in my life, but it's also the reason why I clung to football and really put everything I had into it, because I needed a kind of an out to be able to kind of sort the emotions I was going through. Wasn't much of a talker, and still am not. I'm usually a quieter guy on the team. Don't speak up too much, but I just put my head down and get to work. So that's really what I learned through that time, and why I find football just so close, or such an inspiration in my life, and really a thing that I cling on to.
Great answer, Logan. I appreciate you sharing that. So I'm curious, when you talked about the Melfort Comets and playing for them. If you don't mind, maybe just elaborating a little bit about playing for them a little bit more within Saskatchewan communities. I know it's a good buddy of mine. I don't know if you know about Mancota, Saskatchewan, a smaller community as well. He mentioned about playing like 6-man football out there, and I believe you guys played a little bit of like 9-man football and stuff like that. And just talk about kind of your experience there. And I know from a BC guy, the atmosphere around, football is a little bit different than, province to province. And I know it's a really hotbed there out in Saskatchewan. Can you just talk about your high school experience playing football?
Yeah, 9-man football is what we played. They did have 12-man previously when they had more players back in the day, but then we're still a 9-man football team. So seeing the difference there, and then also seeing the even smaller towns with 6-man football, just a crazy difference. and really changes guys' development. And I think their next kind of path after football, or their next team they're trying to make, it's hard to make a 12-man team once you're used to playing 9-man, or once you're used to playing 6-man, because there's a lot that changes with that. One thing we always hung our hat on was just being tough. We were in northern part of Saskatchewan, so it got pretty cold pretty early. But being able to play through the elements, especially in playoffs like we deal with in the CFL, that really shaped a lot of toughness for myself and a lot of the other Melfort high school guys. So we had a great lifting program with Jared Corley, who's running and still continues to run the off-season program. Also was my O-line coach. So just learned a ton from him. He played U of S Huskies along with our head coach, David Rogers, also U of S Huskies alumni. So all the experience we had from those guys, being a part of the Melfort staff was critical in a lot of guys' current careers now. So really enjoyed my time with Melfort, and like I said, kind of paved the way for the rest of my career.
You'll hear about kids growing up and being able to physically see an example of somebody, and you are now that for your community there in Melfort. So what does that mean to you? I know you go back from time to time. I think I saw a social media post you went back in maybe 2023, and for now, little kids growing up to look up to you and want to be the next Logan Ferland, or to inspire to be like that. That's got to be something you could take a lot of pride in.
That's definitely something I take pride in. Something I definitely look onto. It's something I didn't really think about when I was younger and trying to make it to the Riders. But now I'm here. That is my number one goal, is to be that example for those young guys, especially in the small towns that have that dream, that it is possible, and especially for junior players later on, that they can make that jump. Dan Clark was a guy I looked up to that made that jump. Andrew Harris is another guy that made that jump. There's not many guys that are able to do that. So the fact that we have more and more making that transition a reality is huge. It really sets junior guys apart, especially when a lot of the guys are trades guys. They might not want to go to university. For me, I knew I was going to be a carpenter. That's why I pursued my journeyman certificate after high school as well. So for me, that was the main reason why I played junior. And then obviously the chance to get on with the Riders. So having that possibility and just showing that example to those young kids that they don't need to go to university if they want to have aspirations to play in the CFL, they're able to make that jump. And then those small town kids, are able to make the junior teams. And I had lots of inspiration from guys in Melfort that had done it, whether they went Hilltops or Thunder or in the BCFC. Where you were at, there was a lot of different routes that guys took. So definitely learned a lot from them as well.
So you wrap up your high school career, and at some point, I'm sure you make a decision to want to play at the next level. When did that kind of come into your mindset? Was it maybe a little bit younger, grade 9, grade 10, or kind of were you a later, maybe kind of wanting to lean towards playing football with in the CJFL route?
I wasn't even really that adamant on playing after high school. I wanted to be a conservation officer. That was kind of my goal. That's what my dad did, so I wanted to follow his footsteps. In grade 12, head coach approached me and said, you can play after. You're very skilled. You got a good frame. You could do really well if you wanted to play junior, or if you wanted to go university route. They wanted me to go Huskies. Obviously, that would have been a better thing, but they said any university would be great. But I think deep down they wanted me to go U of S. But for me, like I said, trades was the route I wanted to go. So having that availability with the Regina Thunder and not even really realizing the potential I had, that was something I needed to be reminded of by my coaches. So that was really special on my kind of entrance into the Regina Thunder. That was a time where I pretty much set that goal. At the end of that year, I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. And I may as well shoot for the moon. So that's what I did. I made that goal. I'm like, there's an opportunity with the Roughriders by playing on the Regina Thunder. Obviously they own our rights. So the opportunity to PR on the Riders was huge. Going to the Regina Thunder, seeing the multiple guys that we played with there. Matt Hobblewalks was one of them at the time when I was just getting into the junior league. So that was really cool seeing him practice every day with the Riders. That was almost unbelievable, especially coming from a small town and just seeing Regina as the big city, right? Even though it is a very small city, but just seeing Regina as that big city, and just you're already kind of in a different element. And then you add that to it, that, man, the Riders are here, and there's an opportunity to practice with these guys, and the opportunity came really, really quick.
So I'm curious, with your junior career and kind of talking about that a little bit more, you mentioned about, U of S potentially maybe whispers of maybe wanting to get you to come. You're a Sasky boy. Was it just Regina Thunder the whole time, or were the Hilltops ever involved, or maybe wanting to have any conversations with you during your recruiting process for you?
You know what? Hilltops didn't approach me till later.
Yeah.
I wasn't approached by them till I had already signed with the Regina Thunder. I went to one camp, and it just felt right. I clicked right away, and I signed right after that camp. So that was really cool. I wasn't recruited that heavily out of high school from universities. I would never have had a scholarship offer, I don't think. I wasn't, like I said, I was pretty light. I was 200 pounds coming out of Melfort. We had a couple extremely good players, like Matlin Riley played with him 1 year on the Riders. Graduated with him. Matt Long was another guy. Went to U of S. I'm missing a lot of others. Couple Hilltops from there. So I wasn't crazy heavily recruited, especially by the Hilltops, till after I'd signed with the Regina Thunder. But something just felt right, and I clicked with them. So, and some alumni also from the Thunder kind of reached out that had been from Melfort, some current players as well. So that also helped a little bit. But being in Regina, having that opportunity with the Riders was really the main reason I signed with those guys.
So when talking about the Regina Thunder, something about, the CGFL is how special a coaching staff is. A lot of the coaching staff might not be getting paid as, volunteering a lot of their hours to be there and coach you and, give it their best. So talk about kind of some of the coaching staff for you. I know you talk highly of your offensive line coach when you're there, but also, Coach McCauley and kind of what, they provide for a lot of young athletes, and kind of, some kids might consider them like father figures and stuff like that, and they're there for them on the field, off the field. So just don't mind just talking about kind of the coaching staff and Coach McCauley and what they've been able to do.
Yeah, those guys of the Regina Thunder. I mean, they were the next to pave my way. Sorry, here, I got to close this door. There's
Okay.
a dog doing.
All good.
We're talking about McCauley. Yeah, incredible coach. I've never seen a guy put the time in like him, especially in essentially a volunteer position. Every year at our year-end banquet, those guys are given a potential check to get. They all donate it back, and the amount of hours they put in is a lot more than a normal 40-hour week at a job. So it's amazing to see guys be that focus on a football team while also working their full-time job, which, I mean, yes, like I said, McCauley works extremely hard along with every other coach that's there and volunteers their time. So very special to be able to see that and see what they've put into the program. I'd also coaches like Mark Becker, Tyson Schroeder, Jason Kostyuk, Lonnie Horan, like all those O-line coaches. I could name a lot more that I had throughout my career. They all helped shape my career. So seeing those guys and being able to look up to them, that really shaped and paved a lot of the way to eventually my CFL career.
So when talking about, the coaching staff there, when kind of relating it to, playing 9-man football, you talked about, sometimes you're not able to maybe develop as fully as possible. Sometimes you're asked to play maybe a tight end or something like that, and you're kind of maybe the best athlete as well as a big guy. You talked about being 200 pounds. How was the development process for you at the Regina Thunder? And obviously that was kind of, as a junior guy only, you didn't go the university route. So kind of your development from there, you went straight into the pros, and obviously all your tools that you're able to go into the put into your toolbox going into the CFL, you learn from, the junior route. So just talk about kind of the development process for yourself.
Yeah, we grinded. We worked out constantly. I remember an average day for me was And I look back and there's no way my body would survive it now or make any gains at all. But I'd be up at 4 a.m., get a lift in before work started at 6 or 7, my construction job, then worked a full day, have all my meals prepped from the week on a Sunday that I made them, get to the clubhouse right after work, grind, watch film in there or do some other lifting or some footwork, something to help me. Then we had practice. And then we're getting home at, 10, 11 at night, doing it all over again the next day, barely sleeping, somehow running off of caffeine and as much food as we could put in our bodies. And somehow I was able to make gains from that and do that consistently for a long time. So, and then the off seasons as well, having level 10 as a huge asset to us that they still have in Regina was critical in our development for sure. And then also the guys around us, the O-line, we lived in that clubhouse. You couldn't get us away from there. Even when we were out of there, if we had a bye week or something like that, we were in there all every day that we could, even if we're just having a good time gaming out with the guys in there. And I just remember being very much a family atmosphere, and it made us want to stay there, made us want to get better. So that was critical in my career as I went, and then eventually kind of continued to gain that weight. I was consistently gaining about 20 or 30 pounds a year, trying to make it as lean as I could while working a construction job. So that helped keep me lean as well. And then eventually, getting to my 310 pound self now, trying to make that into as lean as possible, try not to have any wasted movement or any wasted mass on myself. I want to utilize everything I have. So, between nutrition that we learned at the Regina Thunder and the weight program, it like I said, was very critical in my career, kind of paving that way.
Yeah, dude, major salute to you for, remembering the busy schedule that comes with the CGFL, going to work and then having to go to practice and stuff like that. I had a nice cushy job back then, and I work in construction now, so I kind of relate to, some of the long days that you can have for yourself and going to the gym before and then going to work and then going to practice and film and all that stuff, man. I'm sure it was, obviously now looking back at it, a lot of fun and a lot of memories that probably come with it and stuff like that. And obviously it worked out for yourself and you got rewarded. So I'm curious with that rewarding, and you mentioned the Riders kind of having your guys' rights, the Regina Thunder. I believe you got an opportunity there in 2017 to participate in a Riders training camp there, and then in 2019 you were fully on the practice roster. Just take us through kind of those opportunities for yourself and how special that was for you.
Yeah, that was a crazy time. I remember being a young guy. Obviously, I was 19 or 20 at the time. I would have been, and getting that opportunity in 2017. I believe Chris Jones was head coach, and he had tried to get me on the year before, but I just didn't feel ready. And also, it was tough to afford. I had a mortgage I got my first place when I was 20, so I put that on myself to decide to get a mortgage when I was that young, which sometimes I regret, but at the time I thought it was the right decision for investment purposes. So that actually held me back from being able to practice for the Riders because I wasn't making as much as I could make from my construction job. So, but still to be able to have that opportunity in 2017 to be at a camp, just to be around those guys and see a little bit of what it was like before a draft process, before anything, was really, really special to me. Being able to pick the brains of guys like Dan Clark, or Philip Blake was one of the first guys as well that really helped me out. Brendan Labatt, a lot of guys that really took the time and went out of their way to show me what it was really like to be a pro, the things that they put in, or seeing things to maybe simplify the playbook, because that was another big thing that was a totally new world to me at the time. So yeah, between that first camp, I remember getting roasted consistently and felt like I was just getting beat up everywhere I went. I was super light. I was probably 260 my first camp, and going against these fully grown men would just whooping my butt, but they were still critiquing things I could do better. But they know I was mostly getting whooped just because of my size and then inexperience with footwork and things like that. But still a really cool experience to be able to see that and just see what it took. So it almost gave me that type of apprenticeship program, just like I was in construction. I was apprenticing to be a football player essentially as well. So having that in 2017, ended up actually injuring my back a little bit that camp. Had the same problem the next camp. I did a little bit in 2018, I believe. And then 2019, I said, you know what? I have to go all in if I'm going to do this. And this is my year. It was my last year of the Regina Thunder. So I took that opportunity in 2019. And I remember the moment it clicked for me was the very end of the year. I was kind of down on myself. I wasn't very confident in my ability at the CFL level. And I remember a few guys coming down from some NFL camps, and we were doing some one-on-ones after practice, and I didn't lose a rep. And that really changed. Something clicked in that moment. Just gave me the confidence knowing that, you know what, I can do this, and I'm right here, and this is going to be an amazing opportunity. And then having obviously the COVID year the next season, having a full year to know exactly what I needed to work on, and leaving with the inspiration from the other guys from the year before, and exactly, the knowledge of what I need to work on, film I need to watch, having the availability of all that stuff to be prepared for 2021. And then just jump in the ranks in 21, not even being on I remember I was barely even on the depth chart. If there was a last place out of the last places, I was not even on the page. And then eventually working my way to the top, and then starting that year. It was just such a dream come true, and really made all that hard work pay off. The second that I was announced that I was going to be starting that first game was one of the happiest moments of my life, and being able to run on that field truly as a Rough Rider and not a junior anymore just was really, really special to me. And it was a really full circle moment for all the work I'd put in and the people that helped me along the way as well.
We talked about, how much pride it was for you to, be a physical example for your community back home and stuff like that. And you talked about, one moment that clicked for you is, the reps against, some NFL guys and stuff like that. How much pride does that fill you with of, you're a Regina Thunder? To a lot of guys, they're probably like this junior, who's this little junior guy, when, you're going against guys that go to Power 5 schools, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, and you're, obviously proving that, the West representative for most outstanding offensive lineman this past year. You've been the most outstanding offensive lineman for the Riders, I think, the last 3 years, proving that you belong with anybody. You put the shoulder pads on just like anybody else. So how cool is that for you now? And maybe a message to kind of junior kids now of why, it is a path road to go to, the CFL route. If, like yourself, you want to be a tradesman, or maybe you're not great in school and stuff like that. And just talk about a little bit about that aspect.
You know what? It's as simple as saying you get in what you give. You get out what you give. I truly believe that. The time that I put in, that when other guys were partying and other guys wanted to go do things, I was alone on the football field. I still do that. Guys still look at me weird for, getting up early and being on that field when all the lights are off. And to me, that is when I feel the happiest, and that is the most in my zone I can feel. Because I know on game day that work is going to pay off. And that is what truly separated for me from the rest, was literally the time that I put in. I still have film from, that condo that I bought when I was 20 years old. I still have film from, I put some fake turf in the garage, little single car garage, and I had bought a little mannequin, and I would snap the football into a box. That was my quarterback actually taking the snap, and I'd film myself. I still have that same film. One day I'm going to go back and just count the hours that I've put in, because every single one of those minutes, every single hour that I've put in, that is what has excelled me to where I am. And you see it. Anyone that is in the gym consistently or working on their craft consistently, those are the guys that ball out, and they get all of that done in the off season. That is the best time to work your craft, to change technique, because you're not going to change that stuff much during the season. You don't have the time. It's those consistent off seasons I spent grinding away, with, especially working with other linemen or other defensive linemen, to kind of, just talk on the other side of the ball, things like that. But that's what I'm really proud of. And that's what I would say to any kid that feels like they have a bit of imposter syndrome. They feel like they're not good enough, or they're not meant to be there. If you work those small little details, you can do anything you want to, and that really is something I truly believe in. So something I hang my hat on, and hopefully keeps me a really nice, long, injury-free career, knock on wood. But that's kind of my goal now, is just longevity.
Great answer, Logan. So I'm curious, you mentioned about kind of going all in there in 2019. COVID situation obviously ends up happening. You come back into 2021, and just take us into maybe your mindset and maybe some of your goals going into that training camp. Obviously for you, like you said, it was kind of end all be all. There was no going back to junior at that point. It was, basically make the team, or kind of who knows what your future might hold in football. So take us through kind of how you were feeling and kind of maybe just your mindset at that time.
Yeah, I had to go in with that killer instinct almost. I was used to being an underdog. Every team I'd played on, especially even our provincial teams that we'd have in the off seasons and things like that during high school, I was always the smallest kid. I was always looked down on, always the underdog. Going into the Regina Thunder, I was more of a high recruit going in there, so that felt good to have. But I just had to strip myself out of that, almost that hierarchy that I had set eventually on the Regina Thunder. Things become a lot easier, especially when you are practicing with those CFL guys consistently, and then you go back to junior, and the game has slowed down so much, and you're getting a pancake almost every play, and it's just, you almost get a little too high on yourself and you get a little too cocky. So I really had to humble myself, bring myself back down, and really also at the same time gain confidence, and watch those one-on-ones that I won the reps on against those pros, really instill that confidence, work with as many guys as I could, and then when it came time to play in camp, just go absolute balls to the walls and do everything I could to put myself in the best situations possible. And I try to do that through nutrition, through the weight room, and then through film study as well, learning that playbook as soon as I could. And again, getting in guys' heads like Dan Clark, Phil Blake, learning the tips and tricks on how can I learn this better? What's a different way of seeing this on the field, or even defensive linemen, talking to them about different things that I still do. I learn things every single year I play. And I think that's the true way to continue to elevate that game.
Another shout out to Ballsy. I saw that you mentioned that until your first game as a rider, you had never been to a Riders game. So take us through what that moment must have been. I'm sure that kind of replays in your head sometimes from time to time, of like, I'm sure it might even bring goosebumps to yourself even at that point, of like seeing your dream come true, running through the tunnel for the first time, and obviously the atmosphere that comes with, being in Mosaic Stadium and experience Riderville. I'm sure that was a very special moment for yourself.
Yeah, and actually the first time was in 2019 when I was a junior. I was able to play in the preseason game and just be on kickoff return. That's all I played. I think I had one snap as a tight end, as a six man, I think, when we were playing in Calgary. And then we came and had a home game, I believe, against Winnipeg. And that was the first time truly running out of the tunnel as a rider, and very cool feeling, but nothing matched the feeling of running out as a starter and in 2021. And yeah, you're talking about goosebumps. I have them right now for sure, because that's a memory that's going to be there forever. And the amount of emotions that came out of that time too. I'm not an emotional guy, but man, I was a little crybaby at that time in the middle of the field, because it was truly a time where you're almost thinking back. It sounds very cliche, but you can play back all those times you put in. You can just see all that effort you put in the off season before and before that, and almost back to high school, everything that you put in at that moment to lead into it. And then you play the first snap, and then you get shocked because you're leaning too hard because you're a little too excited. So then you just get shocked by the D lineman, and then you go, okay, no, I'm playing football here now. Now let's go. It's time to go. This is the start of my CFL career. So very, very special moment. I'm always gonna hold that close and have that memory forever.
You talked about, moments that clicked for yourself, and, talked about running out of the tunnel. maybe your first training camp, maybe 2017 training camp, was there ever a, kind of a welcome to the CFL moment, maybe your first ever game, starting or something like that? A memory maybe of, maybe it's good, maybe it's a bad, maybe it's kind of something that you've learned now looking back, it's more positive, but is there something that kind of comes to mind?
First thing that comes to mind is Willie Jefferson was defensive end for the Riders at the time. That was my very first rep. And they threw me out at tackle. They just said, okay, next in line, roll up to the line. I think I was playing right tackle. And I thought he ripped my shoulder out of its socket because he did just more of a speed rush on the outside and dip and rip the edge. And I, of course, turned my hips right away because I didn't know what I was doing. And yeah, he got the edge on me and got to the quarterback in one-on-ones. But that was kind of a welcome to the CFL moment. I'm like, man, I don't even know what happened. I think I just blinked and this guy was past me, and now my shoulder hurts. So that was definitely, it was a negative, but it's also a positive because I look back on that, and you still get to face those guys. You get to face those guys that you struggled with the year before or when you were younger, and then you can win reps against those guys. Sometimes having dominant reps against guys, and that is holds true to what I was saying earlier, bro. Just what I put into this game and how much effort I put into an off season, and seeing that build and build and build. Not that another guy is getting worse, but if they're staying the same and I'm getting better, then it's going to show on film. So that was definitely a negative at the time, but when I look back on it, it shaped a lot of. It taught me a lot of lessons just in that one rep I had.
I'm curious, Logan, talking about yourself now. When people ask, or maybe fans ask, like, what position do you play, Logan? What do you tell them? Because, man, the position flexibility of yourself, and that's something that I got to commend you on even more, man, of just how difficult that is of, maybe fans that maybe didn't play the game or stuff like that. They don't understand the, flopping back and forth. And obviously this past season, I believe you started at 3 positions, played 4, of how difficult it is. I know a lot of people kind of, relate it to like going from right-handed to left-handed and trying to do things left-handed when you're a right-handed dominant person. So can you just talk about kind of how much pride I'm sure you take in being very position flexible, and I'm sure that's going to add to your your value as you age in your career, being able to play up and down the line of scrimmage, and just how difficult that is.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's a lot of again, a lot of that off-season work, practicing multiple positions. There's nothing I can't stand more when a guy comes in the locker room and he tells you the one position he is, and that's all he's going to play. Because to me, that is not a thing. If you can't flip sides, if you can't, if you're a guard and you can't play center, you better play. You better be able to, because if that happens in a game, something happens, or even your second guy goes down or your third guy goes down. Well, who's the next up? And the more you can do, that truly is a fact in the CFL. It really is. The more you can do, the more valuable you're going to be to not only your own money you're going to be making in the CFL, but to your team. That, to me, that's the true selfless act you can do, is to learn everything you can. Because if all you can play is one position and on one side, that's not going to cut it. Now, if you're a center, you should have the ability to play both guard spots. The hardest one to me is probably going from center to tackle, or going, from left guard to right tackle, or right guard to left tackle. Because now you're playing in all that space, you're playing against different athletes out there. Your sets totally change, your vision totally changes, and you're on an island a lot more. You're dealing with a lot more one-on-ones. So I really credit to, again, my off seasons, things like that, working with defensive ends quite often in the off seasons if I get the opportunity to, or after practice, trying different sets, talking to guys like, Yoshi or Travion Tate on the other side there. He'll likely be left tackle this year as well. Yoshi playing on the right. So listening to those guys, listening to what they've experienced in the CFL, and what are some things that are going to help me when I go to play that tackle position. Or talking to the centers of the league, like Sean McEwen this year, being able to get in his head and see what he sees as a center, or previously Peter Godber, Dan Clark, being able to talk to those guys, learning what they're doing, what they're seeing, and putting it on film, and just being able to jump in there when I can at different positions just to try to get comfortable with it. It's never going to be easy, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it with anything.
So to fast forward, Logan, to this past season in 2024 and talk a little bit about that. And obviously, it was an interesting start for you guys. You guys rally there and make the playoffs and make a really good push in the playoffs, knocking out the BC Lions, and then obviously being very close to knocking out the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to represent the West in the Grey Cup. Just if you don't mind, obviously, it was a very, for yourself, very dependable, but you were, playing right guard, like I mentioned, playing center, playing left tackle, playing right tackle. So you're going, here, there, and everywhere. Take us through kind of the highs and lows that was the 2024 season.
Yeah, I remember starting off hot and how good it felt. Felt like we had a totally different identity as a team. I felt like, having a man like Corey Mace on as a head coach, I felt like that this is what Saskatchewan football is all about. This is what Saskatchewan's been waiting for. I was coached by, a lot of hard-nosed football players, guys that believed in a ton of discipline, and being able to see that with Corey Mason, what he brought with that, the accountability aspect of things totally changed our identity on the team and continues to. Anyone that's wondering if Mace is that guy, he is that guy. He's exactly what you think he is. He's exactly what you hear he is. And there's no bullshit about it. Pardon my French, but he's a no bullshit, no nonsense guy. And he very much cares about each and every player on that football team. So that really shaped our identity, made us really want to play as a family, not just a team, but a family. And that's something I feel like we'd been missing, that really good, positive locker room atmosphere. It's also having the right guys in there. I was able to create a really special bond with AJ Ouellette, our running back. He's pretty much an old lineman at heart. You can that guy, just how his mind works, it's very similar to an offensive lineman, unfortunately, but also fortunately for us. So, hanging out with a guy like that's a lot easier. And then the rest of the line, doing stuff in the off season, or not only in the off season, but away from the football field. Having guys over, hanging out as much as we can off the field. So to kind of sum that up, yeah, it was a great first start, and then we kind of hit that midpoint. I'm like, oh no, we're kind of getting back into where we were. But you know what? We didn't hesitate. There was nobody that truly fell down, and you could see that in the locker room. Everyone believed what we had, and even though the outside noise said that, they're just what they were, and it's no different here, no change at all. We all knew that wasn't the case. We all knew what we had in that locker room. We trusted the process, and ended up making a decent playoff run. And I still play back that game a lot, and think about what went wrong, what went right, and how we could have done things differently. But that just fuel for the fire now. So it's on to the next, and we're going to have a really good run here in 2025, and I'm just ready to go here.
I'm really glad you mentioned Coach Mace. I'm a big fan of Coach Mace. He's obviously a BC guy himself, and Coach Mace, if he's listening, would love to have him on the podcast. But a few more here, Logan, before we get you out of here. I'm curious. You mentioned about the offensive line and how special that is, that bond. Kind of just take fans into, football is the ultimate brotherhood sport, and you have people say you have 50 brothers on a team and stuff like that. The O-line room is, I feel like, very unique when it comes to the rest of the football team, and just the camaraderie that comes with the brotherhood. And obviously, for people that don't, maybe aren't aware, obviously you spend a lot of time with your teammates, but you're spending most of your day with your position group, right? You're going to, positional groups, drills and practice, film, obviously, etc. Just take us through how kind of special that bond is.
Yeah, those guys, they become true brothers. I have lifelong friendships and bonds formed from that room. You hang out with them more than you do your own family, and especially during the season. And when you can build that bond, I think it's something really special. And when everybody buys into the same thing, if we're all doing work after practice and nobody's left out, I mean, that's special, and that's hard to find, because you'll usually get a couple guys that want to do their own thing. And it's very much you're here or you're not. You're going to fit in or you can leave. Very much that mentality that we've built in the O-line room. And it's truly all clicking now, and it's really special to see. But O-line room is different because, we don't have stats. We don't have any major awards besides, the MOL or All-Stars that we can potentially get. So the fact that we can go in there, we can have a good time in the film room, and we want to be loving that film when we're watching it. We don't want to hate that film. We want to be laughing at players we pancaked and things like that, and really bonding over those different situations, and just bringing that violence into the game and being able to laugh about that after. That is something that you need to have as an offensive line. Right, you need to be confident in each other. You need to know that guy has my back, and he's going to be sprinting down the field with that football after every play, even if it takes him 5 extra seconds because he's 300 pounds. Doesn't matter. We're pursuing that ball. We're not going to be as fast as D linemen, but we're going to get down there, and it really changes the mentality by having that really close-knit group that everyone buys into. So can't talk enough about how important an offensive line room in every position group is. I wish every position group was as close as the O-line room, but I think you'll hear that nobody really matches that same bond that the O-line room creates. We're able to do a lot of things away from the football field, like I said, whether it's smoking briskets with the guys or just having a cookout in the backyard, barbecuing, whatever. We're just having the guys over just to play cards, whatever we're doing, or we're just watching YouTube videos and getting together, having a good time. Same thing goes in the off season. We're doing Zoom chats voluntarily just amongst players. And the fact that we have that and that ability to do that is really going to shape the rest of the season already.
Yeah, I was a quarterback myself, Logan, so I hung around. I love my Hoggies, and obviously that bond between a quarterback and their offensive line is a unique one as well. So I'm curious, we haven't talked about your quarterback yet. What does Trevor Harris just mean to you specifically, as well as your team as a whole, and how you guys rally around him as your leader?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a true leader. He's taught me a lot. He's taught me a lot about resiliency. Watching him go through injuries and watching him do everything he possibly can to get back out on that field. He truly loves the guys he's around, and he makes sure they know that. And that's really what makes him a true leader, is making sure everyone knows how much he cares about them, whether he's reaching out in the off season or just sitting down and having a conversation with you. And it could be, a rookie on the team, and it could be a veteran on the team. It doesn't matter who you are. He's going to come up, introduce himself. Hey, I'm Trevor. And just be a true man about it. And that's just really special to see that. Not only that, but by participating in those certain things, like getting the O-line together for meals, taking us out, showing that he really appreciates us, even though it might not be shown all the time, but he wants to make sure that we feel special. And that makes us want to block our ass off for him. So, having that ability, and not just with Trevor, but having that carry on to the rest of the locker room, guys see that. Guys see how he interacts with everyone else, and they want to do the same thing. So he's, as much as he is a vocal leader, he does a lot behind the scenes that guys don't realize. So very, very incredible leader, and I've learned a ton from him. And very excited to have another go with him here.
Awesome. Last one for you, Logan. I appreciate your time here today, buddy. I'm curious. We talked about the season being a month. I guess we shouldn't say the season. Training camp being about a month away from now. How excited are you for, the 2025 season? You guys, possibly on the verge of taking the next step here in the Western Division, as well as maybe why should Rider fans be excited for this upcoming season?
I think we truly built something special last season, and you see how much of the same locker room we have. We've really connected as a group, as a team, and to be able to come back and know that these same guys are in the locker room, and the new ones coming in will get to see that, and then they can carry on that legacy when this current team isn't there anymore. But just for this season specifically, it's so special to see the bonds we've already created, and the bonds we're going to carry into this season. The fact that we're able to do that is extremely critical, I think, to winning. Those are always the teams you hear about that win are the closest teams. They're not the individuals teams. Everybody has a role in that family, and it truly is a family that we have on the Rough Riders. So that's what I'm most excited for, is those bonds just to be almost rekindled after a long off season here it's been, and we're feeling very confident. I know I'm feeling the best my body's ever felt, the strongest I've felt, and the leanest I've been, the fastest I've been. So I am extremely excited to just get to it with the guys and get to work and show the CFL and the rest of the fans who we really are.
Awesome. Logan, appreciate you so much for jumping on here and chatting a little bit about your journey, man. Like I said, a fellow teammate of mine came out to the island from Mancoda, Saskatchewan in 2019. And he said, man, this Logan Ferland, he's the best offensive lineman in the country right now. Like, he kind of spent a little bit of time, I think, deciding between Regina and VI. And, was a kind of cool one, like I said, to kind of follow your career from that point and always root for the junior guys. So been wanting to link up with you for a little while, man, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man, you bet. It's always nice chopping up with a fellow junior player, and we gotta stick together. There's a lot of alumni of us, but there's not too many. Whether it's in the CFL or still talking about the CFL. So it's very cool to chop it up with you and be on here. So I appreciate the time here.
Of course. If everyone is tuning in and enjoying today's episode, of course, please sure to leave a like down below, leave a comment rooting on Logan and his teammates, obviously, this season. And most importantly, please subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys will get notified every time we upload or go live. That'll do it for today's episode, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.